Welcome back. It's Military Money Mastery, lesson number 1, episode number 2. Got the 30th of November today, so that's how you know it's current. Today's whole lesson is going to be about setting a budget. It's a super important thing that we need to go over, and I think that it's probably the best lesson to start with, in my opinion. The things that we're going to go over today: what's a budget? You know, if you're unfamiliar with it or don't know what to budget for, that's what we'll go over. Why should we set a budget? It's super important. Everybody tells you to do it, so why don't we do it? How can we determine what our budget is? This is going to vary from person to person. You know, not everybody's going to have the same budget. Not everybody's going to have the same bills. Not everybody's going to have the same opportunity for things. So that's what we'll go over with that. And then we'll wrap it up with how can we keep our budget? You know, what are we going to keep our budget into? What are we going to budget for? So this is a super important one that we'll go over. Most of this we're going to do on the computer. We have a Navy budgeting software that's available for all military members. We'll go over where you can go to find that. We'll go over how to use it. And then we'll go over just some debt pay downs or how to use that software for your own personal gain. Okay, so let's start by defining what a budget is. Budget is defined as an estimate of income and expenditures over a set period of time. The amount of time that we're going to be discussing today would be for a month span. It's generally the most effective way, as far as I'm concerned, with setting a budget. One of the things we can do when setting a monthly budget is budget for things over a year time too, but you break it down into month increments. So say your auto registration, right? Say your car costs $120 a year to register. So you can break that down to put $10 a month towards registration. That's just an easy way of accounting for that money, but not actually accounting for the whole year within a month, if that kind of makes sense. The next thing, so why should we set a budget, right? So when keeping a close eye on your financials, it kind of holds you more accountable for the money, especially the money that you spend. Not necessarily the money's coming in, but it holds you more accountable for the money that you spend. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but have you ever, whenever you have like cash in your wallet, you're less likely to spend more of it than you are if you had, say, like a credit card or a debit card. And according to NerdWallet, the average U.S. citizen spends between 12 to 18% more money when using a debit or credit card than they would if they were using cash. So it's kind of a big deal. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're spending 12 to 18% more once a month, not really a huge deal. But if you're spending 12 to 18% more, 2, 3, 4 times a day, that really, really adds up. Also, I'm sure a lot of us do this, but have you ever wondered where all your money goes from paycheck to paycheck? I know before I started really focusing on budgeting that I didn't really know where my money was going. Yeah, I knew I spent it on stuff. Yeah, I knew money went to bills and whatnot, but I didn't really account for all these little transactions like going out to eat or buying stuff from the gas station, buying energy drinks or sodas or I don't smoke, but cigarettes, that shit really adds up. And that's something that can really be corrected by using a budget. It really helps. I mean, you can correct things. Let me take that back. You can plan things out with a budget, but to correct them, that has to come from inside. So what we're going to go through here, excuse me, I'm looking at the other screen, is we're going through a budget. And I'm going to show you where you can go to find the budgeting software. So this is a free site. I'm on my home computer. If you can tell down here, these are my own icons. So this website is run by the Navy. It's gowifi.com. And the part that we're really going to be looking at is right here, the personal financial planning. So we click on that, and this right here is our Navy sponsored Excel spreadsheet for budgeting. You got a bunch of other things here, and like things that you can click on and look through, and they're really, really helpful. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be going over just the budget. So we can go through this. Let me drag it on over here. And when you first open it, you have to enable editing and enable content. I don't know how everybody else's computers are, but at work, this doesn't work for me because the macros are disabled. So I have to do this on my home computer. And you know, if you want to do it at work, I'd suggest bringing in a laptop. But you can do it on your home computer, which is extremely helpful. So first thing, you don't really need to add your name, but we'll do it for you know, posterity's sake. So we'll do John Smith. Age, let's say this guy's just joining, right? He's 18, fresh out of high school, and say he does his 20 years, right? Super easy. Starts off, say he's an E1, less than 2 years in service. We'll project that he's going to do 20, right? So projected age 38. Let's say he'll do 20 years, and say he retires as an E7. I'd say that's definitely doable, and that's pretty average. You know, I'd say E7 is pretty average to get to in 20 years. So the date reported and date to transfer, that's only if you're doing it for, like, you know, however long your PCS is. So for us, it's, you know, 5 years on land billet or 3 years on a deployable unit. So I'm just gonna not fill that in because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't get factored in to the budget. So BH status, let's say, I mean, if you're 18, hopefully he's single. I mean, if you get married at 18, that's cool, but you know, I feel that it's better to wait personally. But you know, before he's due to retire, let's say he's going to get married. You know, he gets married to Jane Smith, right? And we won't factor in her income, but I will show you how to put that in there, and that it's super helpful. Okay, so hopefully he doesn't have kids when he's 18 either. If you do, again, that's fine, but for me, I'm 32, and I don't know if I'm still ready, but I digress. So let's do a home address and zip code. So this one you have to tab out of. You can't just like click out of it. But let's do for where I'm at right now. So 97121's Oregon. Then we tab, and let's say he wants to go back to obviously where I'm from, San Diego. Let's do 91901. That's where my parents live. So San Diego, right? And then tab out of it. So there, boom. It says that actual zip is 97121 and where I'm going to go. Work, telephone, home, and command referral. Those don't matter unless you're a command financial specialist. And you're doing this, which is sometimes for people who are in trouble. That's why it's command referred. But this is a super useful tool even if you're not referred. Okay, so amount of SGLI, 400K, right? And when he's married, obviously he'll have FSGLI, so I think I said it wrong before, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. So let's go down to 100K, right? And still 400K. So TSP base contribution, I would suggest doing as much as you possibly can. This guy's an E1, probably doesn't have any bills, so let's say he's putting 25% away. That's what I did. And then, you know, by the time he's due to retire, he's like, oh, I got some kids, you know, I can't really afford to be putting as much away towards TSP. So let's say he drops it down to 10%, which is probably still putting more away as far as dollar values go than when he's 18, but you know, like maybe he needs to spend that other 90% on other things in his budget. Okay, so bonus pay, let's say he puts, you know, another 25% away towards bonuses and another 10% away towards, oh, it's $10. Doesn't do percentages. Oh well. So we won't put that in because that varies widely. And if he's E1, he's probably thinking about spending that money on cars and whatnot. So Roth, TSP, and we can go over that in another video to explain the differences and the advantages and disadvantages of both. I myself put into traditional TSP, and I did Roth for a while, and then I switched to traditional. Started with traditional, went to Roth, went back to traditional, And there's reasons why you want to do each one. And like I said, in a future video, we'll explain the TSP as it's extremely important. Okay, so cash on hand, this guy's straight out of high school, he ain't got no money, right? Nothing in his checking, no cash on hand, no savings, doesn't have any CDs. We'll just kind of skip over this, but this is good stuff for you to put in, right? So, you know, say you got $100 in your pocket, you want to put that in, or you have a couple thousand in your checking, you know, a couple thousand in your savings. It's a good way to determine how much money you can use at the end when we're going down to the full steam, which I'll also explain. Also, you know, TSP balances and stuff in here, you can put that in, and that's extremely helpful for your TSP calculations, which we'll go over, which is right down here. Okay, he doesn't have a house, rental property, no cars, nothing. So this is super easy. If he did have this stuff, you know, like say he had a $300,000 house, you could put that in there, and that would go towards his, or $3 million house. Wow, the guy's balling. If you had a, you know, that would go towards his net worth. I really don't think that's a good way to measure net worth because it's a mortgage and it doesn't actually give you $3 million as far as net worth goes. But that's how it's calculated, which, yeah. Okay, so the next one we'll go to his income tab right down here. So you see it populates for you. That's what his monthly base pay is going to be, and his basic allowance for housing if he's getting BH. But he's probably not, huh? So we'll just say he's in government quarters. Because if an E1's getting BH while he's single, he's at a good unit. Okay, so he's getting. We'll go down to basic allotment for substance. He's getting standard, right? So he's not living on a boat, and he's getting, you know, BAS. So family separation doesn't apply. Doesn't apply. These are things that we can add in under net worth, but they don't really factor into the situation. So CPAY, he's not on a boat, and we'll just say that he's not on a boat when he's due to retire. We could add him in there if you want. You know, you could be like, oh, he's getting 5 years CPAY. Okay, so and he's not getting coal or anything. So we could put allotments in here, like, so say he's contributing towards, like, for us we have what's called the the CGMI. So it's like a donation thing that I donate to for other Coast Guard members. So we could put down that, you know, say he's putting $20 away towards that per month. He's a pretty good guy. We could put his filing status, which is single, right? So I hope he's single and claiming 0. And this is a good way that you can kind of go and play around with what your taxes are going to be, right? So if you say you want to maximize the efficiency of your taxes, like you don't want to contribute as much to your taxes over the year, you can come through and it's like, you know, well, I'm single, what would it be if I was claiming 5? Not applicable, apparently. But, you know, like, so say you're claiming 1, they're going to be taking $57 out. If you want to claim 2, they're going to be taking 22, etc. Right? And same thing on the other side, you know, you're projected. So he's married and he's got a wife and 2 kids. So we'll say married 3. You can do your TRICARE dental plan, which doesn't qualify. He doesn't need to on here because he's a military member. But this is for a family, right? So he's paying $28.87 a month. Pretty solid deal. And then this stuff gets factored in later. If you had a spouse or significant other or whatever that was in the military too, this is where you could add them. So, you know, you could say, hey, he's or she, you know, is an E6 with 10 years, and you see how it populates. So that's super helpful if you're married member to member. I myself am not, so this doesn't apply to me, and we can say, you know, say he does get married to somebody who's in the military and he or she is the same rank as him. You know, let's do that. That'd make it kind of fun, right? They're both getting BAS, right? Family, we're not going to do that. Not going to do that. Okay, perfect. Not 100% sure which one this one should be, so we'll just leave it as it is. and she's going to be married 3 as well, right? Okay, so if your spouse or your significant other isn't in the military, this is where you can add that stuff towards like second income. So let's go back and we'll just remove this to show you how it's done. Probably don't need to take that out, but so second income, so let's say that she's making, or he is making $45 an hour, which by the age of 39 or 38 or 39 is very doable. And they're full-time in it, so they're 80 hours a week. Boom, populates it out. And some things that we can put in here are taxes and whatnot, but that's getting kind of nitpicky, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then you can put in, if hopefully they're putting in for 401k. It's much better to do it at a younger age than at an older age, because of compounding interest and whatnot. But that's also something that we can go over in the future. Okay, so basic total monthly income. We can factor in taxes and stuff, but it's not really a huge deal at this point. Okay, so living expenses. This is actually my favorite part of the budgeting. So this is where you put what you actually pay and what you're projecting to pay. So say you wanted to do this for your budget next month, right? So you would put in, hey, I'm actually putting nothing away from my emergency fund, nothing away from my reserve fund, nothing away from my goal-getter fund, nothing away from my investments. But what would happen if I put it in here, right? What would my budget look like if I put this much away towards something? So it's super, super helpful. For this sake, we're talking about 20 years in the future. So we can say maybe he's putting away 150 towards his emergency fund, which hopefully he has something that we'll talk about later in this video. Hopefully he has his emergency fund already maxed out, and then say reserve funds or other things you want to do. So say he's putting $50 away for that, and a goal-getter fund, which is also something that we'll talk about later on in this film. But it's super, super important for goal-getter funds, and in my opinion, it's fun because not necessarily the saving money and like taking that money and putting it away, but when you get to use it, because this is for something that you really want. So say he's really excited and he's putting 150 away towards his goal-getter fund. Investments, towards the end, it's not as important as when you're younger, so I would really recommend putting money away for investments. And that's also another video that I'll go over in the future, is investing, how to invest, and different markets to invest in. Okay, so investments, IRAs, etc. So IRA, individual retirement account. So say he's putting away, he's doing a good job and he's putting $500 away, and that's on top of the TSP. Okay, so furnishings. This is something, maybe you don't spend tons on furnishings every month, but say every 2 months you spend, $40. We can round that down to $20 a month, right? Or whatnot. So let's say, he's in the barracks, so he's not spending anything on furnishings. But when he's married, 20 years later with 2 kids, he's probably spending some money. I know my wife likes to buy curtains, right? So those are expensive. And while we don't buy curtains every month, maybe we buy a new set of curtains every 3 or 4 months. And say we buy a set of curtains 4 months, and it's $40 for all the curtains and whatnot, and so that's $10 a month. And that's not the only thing, but you buy candles or cleaning supplies or whatnot, and that can get added into here too. So we'll do furnishings. We'll say married, 2 kids, $60 a month. Not unreasonable at all. If you're married, you know this. Maintenance, repairs, storage fees. I say he's a single dude. Hopefully he's living in the barracks without having to pay for a storage unit. And hopefully when you're married, you don't have to pay for storage unit, but this is for your house. So you're doing household repairs, just random stuff, say over the course of a year. I wouldn't say it's unreasonable to spend, $4,000 on your house, just random stuff like gas for the lawnmower, or repair on the lawnmower, or batteries for the lawnmower if you have an electric one. You know, new curtains, blinds, and stuff that get damaged. You know, basic repairs to the house. You know, every once in a while you might have to buy some plywood or whatnot. So I'd say, you know what, like maybe $100 a month. That would be a little light. Let's say $150 a month. If you're a homeowner, that's pretty understandable. I think I spend more than $150 on my house a month, but we'll just put $150. So mortgage, rent, his actual, he's living in the barracks like we discussed, so he doesn't have a mortgage or rent. But say this time he's in San Diego, which means that he's paying a lot for rent. So that means he's got to account for that. So we'll say, you know, what if he's spending not $35,000, wow, that's a sweet house, $3,500 a month in mortgage. That's not unreasonable for Southern California. All right, taxes, fees, homeowners. So his actual, that's not applicable because he doesn't have a house, right? So homeowners, associates fees, these usually get rolled into your mortgage. So I'm not going to put it in there just because it gets rolled into the mortgage. But if you did pay like a homeowners association fee out of pocket, that would go in there. But taxes, like I said, usually get rolled into your mortgage because they don't want the county or the state or the city or whoever to take the house from underneath you because you're not paying your taxes. Okay, dining out. So this guy's, he's living in the barracks, you know, he's going to chow pretty often. That can actually be factored in here. So let's say he's spending $20 a day. No, that's a little too much. Let's say he's spending $15 a day eating, right? That's not unreasonable for a single E1. So he's spending $15 a day over a 30-day period. Pull up my calculator here. So he's spending $450 a month on food. That's, I mean, if you're living in the barracks, you're probably not cooking too many home cooked meals for yourself, unfortunately. And $15 a day, you know, it's $5 a meal. That might be a little high depending on what the cost of the galley is. I don't remember off the top of my head, so we don't have one here, unfortunately. But let's just say that. Okay, so now he's tightening the reins up. He's married, 2 kids, got his own house. Probably going to be cooking in a lot more. I know that a lot of families they like to cook in, right? So he's not dining out as much. Let's say they go out like twice a month, you know, feeding 4 people, depending on where you go. That could be like $100 a pop. So let's say $200 they spend in a month on dining out. So food supplies, commissary, other stores. Let's say our single E1 likes to go, you know, grab snacks. You know, who doesn't like getting some Doritos or some Wheat Thins or something? So let's say he spends $75 a month. I think that's pretty reasonable. But food supplies for a family, it's going to be quite a bit different. Just with the 2 of us right now, I think we spend close to $400 a month. So we'll say we double that because of kids. So let's say they're spending $800 a month in food. That's actually not unreasonable with 4 kids, or with 2 kids, 4 people in the family. So lunches, we already factored that into dining out for our E1. Hopefully this E8 is packing his own meals and kind of food prepping. That's what I do, and it really helps. But you know, every once in a while, you like to go out to eat with your friends or whatnot, or people at work. So let's say you spend, you know, like $150 a month. That's not unreasonable. Then our E1, he's probably getting coffee at the coffee mess, so that doesn't matter. Let's say our E8 on his way in, every Friday he likes to go by Starbucks and get a coffee. You know, what's that, like $5 a pop? So let's say $20 a month. Cable satellite TV, hopefully in the barracks he's not paying for that, but you never know. When you have kids, you know, probably getting cable, so let's say $50 or so. Pager, cell phone, E1's probably got his own cell phone, so let's say $50 a month. If you're getting Sprint, that's pretty doable. And say he sticks with Sprint. What's a Sprint family plan? Like $100 a month, something like that. $99 for unlimited family. Because he's going the decently cheap route. It's electricity, living in the barracks doesn't apply, right? But if you have a house, you're paying electricity, especially with 4 people, you know those kids are going to run up their electricity. So let's say $200. That, I wouldn't say that's unreasonable. Internet service, he's in the barracks. I don't know if they can get internet in certain barracks, so I'm going to say they don't. So we'll skip past that one as far as barrack goes. But if you're at home, I spend $65 a month on internet, and it doesn't really change depending on how many people. So we'll say 65. All right, natural gas, propane. Again, he's in the barracks. That doesn't count. So you're at a house, you got kids, and kids like to let the hot water run, right? So that jacks up the propane costs. We'll say, you know, maybe $80 a month. This is, by the way, this is all just guesstimates. If you really want to get a good budget going, I would suggest taking your last 3 bills and finding the average of all 3 of those. If you don't know how to do that, it's super easy. You just take the ending balance of each month, add them all together, and divide by 3. Super easy. Okay, so telephone, I don't think anybody pays for landlines anymore, but they have it there just in case. He's not paying for water, garbage, sewer. We do here. It's like $75 a month, and that doesn't. I guess it would probably go up if you had 2 kids, right? So we'll say 125. Hopefully he doesn't have any childcare stuff, but say the E8 puts his kids through childcare, but it gets subsidized. I don't know if every branch has it, but we do in the Coast Guard. It's subsidized. So let's say he's out of pocket. He's spending $200 a month, to put his kids in like after school daycare or whatnot. Oh, that's allowances. Okay, so he's paying his kids, $10 a week for both of them. So let's say he's $80 in allowances. Daycare, again, $200, right? And child support, still married, so that's not going to apply. Automobile, gasoline. So our E1 doesn't have a car, so this doesn't apply. A lot of this doesn't apply yet. But E8, he's driving to and from work. California gas is expensive, so let's say he's spending $350 a month on gas. Now this is where it gets a lot of people in gas, because they don't really realize how much they actually spend in gas. So what I would suggest is going through your bank statements. Go online, go to whatever bank you use, and I use USAA, and just look at all the gas expenditures you've had over a month or 3 months, and you can do an average to get a good number here. And this will really help out, because you would be surprised on how much you pay in gas. I don't pay a lot in gas here because I'm in Oregon and my work is 13 miles away. But some people are driving, like an hour, maybe an hour and a half to work, and those gas bills really go up. You might think that you're saving because, I'm not paying $300 a month in rent, but your insurance and your gas go up. So keep that in mind. This is one of those things. So every month you're not going to have to do maintenance on your car unless you're driving an absurd amount of miles. So you're driving like 5 hours to work every day. That might be an exaggeration, but I'm just trying to put the point out there. So you're doing maintenance, repairs on your car. Say you're changing the oil. Was that 4 times a year at $30 a pop? It's $120. And then say, what else is like a yearly thing? So, well, I guess you change your air filter, twice a year or whatnot, and those are, $15 a pop. So we add 30 to that, so it's 150. And then, say you get some basic repairs on your car, like diagnostic tests are like anywhere between 60 to like $120 or so. So let's add 80 to that, so we're at 230. And then, say you have to take your car to the shop once a year. Not too much, and you spend, $200 doing it. So that puts us at 430 divided by 12 months out of the year, which gives us 3583. So let's put that in there. So that's just an average of what it would be over the year, right? And we're accounting for that in our budget. That's what I was discussing earlier. Okay, and also the registration. So your car, let's say registration's $120 a year. I don't think that's what mine is, but we'll just say it's $120 a year, so he's paying $10 a month in registration, right? All right, laundry, dry cleaning. Our E1's living on base in the barracks, and for the most part, I'm pretty sure they have free laundry. But let's say he's dry cleaning his uniforms, he's getting impressed because he wants to look good, because he wants to advance. So he's spending, how about $40 a month? You know, he's getting impressed twice. While our E8 is doing the same thing, but he's also paying for, you know, laundry soap and dryer sheets and whatnot for 4 people. So let's say he's spending, you know, like, that stuff's not super expensive. Let's say he's spending $75 a month. All right, and so purchases, we're gonna put $50 a month, like it says, estimate per person, just because, you know, you buy clothes. And so sometimes you buy more, sometimes you buy less, and this also has to do with like uniform items and whatnot. So there's 4 people living in the household, it's $200. E1 doesn't have a car, but let's say E8's, he's older, so the insurance is going to be super expensive for him and his spouse. So let's say $100 a month. He's got cheapy, like liability only. Health life insurance, the dependent stuff already gets factored in, so we don't have to do that, as you can see. Homeowners and renters insurance, that's also the case with mortgages, so that gets factored into the mortgage. So we'll leave both those at 0. Healthcare, dental, all this stuff is covered. But let's say our E1, he's going to the gym, he likes to work out, he's getting his protein powders, he spends what, like $30 a month on protein. That's typically what I do. And you know, when he's older, him and his wife are doing it, so they're doubling it, so 60, right? Let's say he's a go-getter and he wants to, you know, read, you know, so he's buying like a book a month or so. So it's 10 to $15. We'll go on the higher end, we'll go 15. But him and his wife like to read books, so they're going 30. Fees, other room and board for education doesn't apply here. Tuition, his kids are private schools, so that doesn't apply either. MGIB doesn't apply in this situation either. So charities, what do we say? He's donating $20 a month to the CGMA. I think I said CGMI earlier, but it's CGMA. And let's say they're going to church and tithing. Say they do $20 a week, so let's say $80. They're going to church and tithing. It's just something you can add in. It doesn't really matter if you do or don't. I'm just putting it in there for the sake of it. So athletic events, sporting goods. So like going to concerts, you can put that in here. You can go into football games, baseball games, whatever. There's nothing really around here, but if you want to go to that stuff, this is a good place to put it in. So like, say you're really into sports, you're like, man, I got to go see those Padres, you know, 10 times a month. Well, you can do that super cheap. You can do it $5, so that's only $50 a month. But if that's what you want to do, you can put that in here. Or if you're buying season tickets, for example, like, so you're like, man, I got to see them Chargers every single home game. Okay, so you would calculate out what those season tickets would be. So say they're cheap, right? And they're like $1,000. What would that be divided by 12? So that's $83 a month, right? So that's where you would put that in. So say the E8, he's like, man, I got to have me some season Chargers tickets for $1,000 a year. Totally doable. So he's taking him and his wife, so we'll times that by 2, so it's $166.67, right? Boom. Books, magazines. I don't know anybody who really subscribes to magazines anymore. And if you have Amazon Prime, you get the free ebooks. So we can say, you know, he pays for Amazon Prime, right? Who doesn't? So computer products, software, hardware, supplies. E1's probably not doing this, and say he's doing what's Microsoft Online, is it like $10 a month or something like that for the Office, DVD, Blu-ray, video games, rentals, memberships. So I know a lot of us like to play video games. That stuff costs money, adds up over time. So, you know, say he's spending, I don't play World of Warcraft, but I know it's like $15 a month. Or if you're doing the, was it on Xbox, the EA Pass, it's like $5 a month or something like that. Or you have Xbox Live or PlayStation Network. that stuff would go in here. So say he's doing Xbox Live, which I think is $5. I could be wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong, but that's what I think it is. And he's doing the EA Sports thing, which is another $5. To say he's spending, $10 a month. That's pretty cool. The EA, you get, a lot of games. You get Madden and Titanfall and soccer and all kinds of good stuff in there. And then when he's older, he's got his kids and stuff, so he's still doing that. Purchase DVDs, CDs, apps, and iTunes music. Let's say he's really into music, who isn't? Or he's doing Spotify, right? So Spotify, $9.99 a month. We can round that to 10. Does the penny really matter? Not really. But when he's older, he's got his kids, right? Oh, plus you got to factor in Netflix. So let's say $30. And this guy's also doing Netflix. So let's say 25, because it's about 15 a month, I think. Entertainment, movies. So say he goes out to the movies like twice a month. That's not unreasonable. So he spends, is it like $10 on a ticket, and he gets a soda and popcorn. So he spends $20 while he's there. So twice a month is 40. So when he gets older, probably not going to be taking your kids to as many movies, just because there's not as many movies for kids. So let's say he goes out to the movie like once every 2 months or once a month. But he's got 2 kids, so it's probably going to be closer to like 75 or 80. So we'll put 80 just to put in there. It's, in my opinion, it's better to put too much money into this category, because that way you know what to pull back from. You could put in, if you put your kids in lessons here, so obviously you have dance, music, self-defense, whatever, like karate and whatnot, but we won't add that into this one because I'm not really sure how to calculate that one out. But if you are into those things, then you know how much they cost, right? So toys, games, got kids. Let's say he spends like $50 a month on toys, right? It's just obvious, that's not unreasonable. It's travel, lodging. This is a big one for military members, as we don't live home most of the time. I've moved all over the country. I lived in New Jersey, Louisiana, San Diego, San Francisco, and now I'm in Oregon. And it seems like every holiday, right, go home. The big holidays, right? So Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then my wife and I like to go to Comic-Con. If you can tell behind me, we got a bunch of comic book stuff. So we try and go to Comic-Con every year. And the only vacations we ever take is going home, right? And how much does that cost? Well, we're living on the West Coast, and we're flying down to San Diego, so it's pretty inexpensive for us. It's like $150 round trip, or about $300 round trip per person, so about $600. It's not really unreasonable, but if you're coming from somewhere else, this is something that you can put in, so that way you can factor in that cost towards your yearly budget. So we're flying back home. Say we don't typically go back during Thanksgiving. We'd rather go back during Christmas and our birthday and Comic-Con. Because usually my wife and I's birthday are 2 weeks apart in September, so we try and go in September. But so say we go home 3 times, that's $1,800. So let's see what 1,800 divided by 12, $150 a month, right? While that sounds like a lot, if you're going to be going anyway, you might as well factor it into your cost, because it's going home to see family, and you know how moms and dads and grandmas and all those people get if you don't go home and see them all the time. But something that I forgot is that our E8 is in San Diego, so that doesn't really matter, right? But so say that our E1, he goes home, say he goes home 3 times a year, right? Well, half that, because it's only him. Gifts. So this is another thing that you do over the whole course of the year, right? So I know you have birthdays and anniversaries down there, but you also have Christmas. Some people get gifts for Easter or 4th of July or Halloween or whatnot. I'm sure you guys have been to stores and seen they have Halloween cards, and they have 4th of July cards, and they have any holiday you could think of, they have cards for. So this is where you could put that stuff in there, and you kind of factor it over the whole year. So we know he's 18, he's kind of broke. I'm sure your parents when you were 18 didn't really expect tons in the way of gifts from you or whatnot. So we'll say he spends $10 a month on gifts, which means he spends about $120 a year on gifts for like Christmas and the other holidays or whatnot, which is not unreasonable. But once you get older, obviously you're going to have a little bit more money, right? And you're going to have more people to spend that money on, which is going to be our next episode on holiday budgeting. So say that we're doing the budget that we'll be discussing in the next video, and I'll put in perspective on how much that should be. So wife, husband, 2 kids, 4 people. So then, you know, you got uncles, aunts, whatnot. So we'll say each set has 2 sets of uncles and aunts. And by the budget I'm doing is 25 a piece. So that's about $200 for all 8 of them. And you got 2 sets of grandparents, right? So we'll also we'll move that up to 35 times 4. So we're at 340. And then you got your kids, you know. How much money do you put on your kids? It changes. But it's important to set a budget and to stick to that budget. Yeah, they might not get some things that they really want, but in the end, they're just gifts. Like I was discussing with somebody yesterday, I don't even remember half the gifts that I got when I was a kid growing up. I remember I got some cool things. I remember getting, you know, like a Nintendo here and there. I remember getting like an RC car, you know, every few years. So for the most part, gifts don't really matter as much as you think they would. I mean, sure, you want your kids to have a great Christmas, but they're not really going to remember everything, especially when they're young. So let's say that you got 2 kids, and say you're going to be a little bit generous, you know, and you want to spend $150 on each kid, so that's $300, right? So that puts us up to a grand total of 540, right? Or 640, sorry. 640, and then we'll divide that by 12, and that's going to put us at $53.33 a year, or a month, that we're putting away. Not a lot of money, right? Doesn't seem like it. But it does seem like it if you're not budgeting for it all year, and you're waiting until the last minute to, you know, get those gifts. So holidays, birthdays, or holidays and anniversaries. He's not married, so he doesn't have any anniversaries. Doesn't have to worry about that. My wife and I, actually, we don't usually get anything for each other for anniversaries. We just like to spend time together, which is what matters more. But you know, he's got some brothers and sisters, and he's got a mom and dad. You know, he's grandpa, grandma, aunts, all that stuff. He's got to buy them birthday gifts. So we'll say he spends about the same just over the whole year. I think isn't unreasonable. Okay, so personal care, barber, beauty. I don't know how much it is on base for haircuts. We don't have that in the Coast Guard typically. At least most of the bases I've been to. I think the only one that I've seen it at is the training centers and at Hawaii. But so we'll say barber, beauty care, he's spending what, $20 a haircut, so $40 a month. That's what I typically do. You know, he's getting older. Like, women don't really have their haircut as much. When they do, it's a little bit more expensive, but it actually turns out to be less over the course of a year. At least if your wife has long hair. I know mine gets her haircut once a year at most, and it's like $40. So we'll say he spends like $45 a month on haircuts. Beer, liquor, wine, I don't really want to factor that in there. I don't drink, so I don't know a good basis for how much that costs everybody. But if you do, I think it's a good idea, like I said, to go back to your bank account. Just look at how many times you bought alcohol or beer or whatnot, and kind of do an average. Just see how much you spend averagely. If you're living on base, hopefully you're not paying for fitness, because most bases have gyms. Tobacco products, again, just like alcohol. I don't smoke, so I don't know a good way to factor that in, but I would highly suggest going back. I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but go back to your last 3 months worth of statements and just find an average. Okay, so pet care. He's an E1, living in barracks, not allowed to have pets, right? But gets older, he's got a dog and 2 cats. That's what I have. I spend about $40 a month on on dog and cat food. And veterinarian service, boarding, grooming. So this is kind of like, you never know when you may have to take your pet to the emergency room, right? Everybody knows it's super expensive. So like, say you have to take your dog, like my dog who put her head through a window. It was like $1,000 incident, right? So maybe it was less. I don't really remember, but those kind of things happen, and it may happen once a year. It may happen once every 10 years, but you can't really, there's no really good way to set that into your budget. But you can put in there like, okay, you know, I get my dog groomed every 2 months. If you have a long-haired dog, that's not totally unreasonable, especially during the summer. But you can put in things like basic, right? So like, your dog has to get shots every 6 months, or dogs and cats have to get shots every 6 months, or something like that. You know, or if you're taking them and you're boarding them whenever you travel, right? Like we do with ours, and it's $30 a day, and say we're gone for, you know, like 20 days out of the year, you know, going on vacation, which isn't unreasonable. So that was at $900 divided by 12 is $75 a month. Nobody has to board their cats, right? You just get somebody to come and check on them every couple days, and they're fine. Cats are very self-sufficient. Okay, so we go over job expense, non-reimbursed, reimbursed. I get reimbursed for everything that I do on my job, except, yeah, just about everything I do, unless I want to buy my own personal knife or something, you know, like. So this is something that would vary case to case. So we won't put that in there, because like I said, it varies case to case. So ATM fees, stamps, etc. If you have USAA, yeah, you get charged up front, but you get, I think, most of that money back, or at least all of it, I think you get all of it, or at least most of it back at the end of the month. So I don't really know how to calculate that one out. And then this says other, so to recommend a $50, $150 barrier or buffer. This is just in case, you know, what if you forgot something? I do that all the time. You know, maybe one of these numbers is fudged a little and it's too low or too high. And it's also good to have this buffer, because then it'll tell you, it'll hold you, well, no, it'll just be extra money in there, that just in case something does come up that you didn't account for in here, like a friend comes into town and you guys go out drinking for a night, or a friend comes in and you go out to dinner or something, you know. So I like to put on the upper end of this, just because it kind of gives extra buffer room. So we'll put 150 on those, not a tilde. Okay, so this is telling us what our actual expenses are in relation to our income and what the projected will be. So then we go over to the in-debt screen. And this one's really cool. This is actually super helpful. So this is going to tell you what your debt to income ratios are, depending on how much debt you have, right? So this is typically for right now. It doesn't take into effect how much it'll matter in the future, but you can change that depending on what you want. So like, you know, as an E8, he's probably going to have a car and all that, and he's going to have, hopefully he paid for it in cash, but you never know. This is where you can put, you know, like your mortgage, or actually your mortgage went in the other one. So this way, credit cards and whatnot. So like, say he's got a Costco credit card, right? Which is pretty good. That's what I have. You get points back and whatnot. So we go, you can click down here and it's got all kinds of things, you know, Visa credit cards, student cards, MasterCards. Doesn't really matter that much. This is just a way to help you organize it. So say major credit card, the balance, say they have like a $2,500 balance. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not. It's credit cards. You need to use a portion of the credit in order to increase your credit. So say their minimum monthly payments like $250, not crazy amount, and the projected payment. So say you want to pay it down, or you want to see what it's going to be like if you were to change your payments. You could put your remarks. So Costco sees credit card for food or whatnot. I don't know. And then you put your interest. So let's say it's a decent one. You're getting about 15%. So this right here is going to tell you what your debt to income ratio is going to be. And like I said, it's hard to do it for the projected because this is obviously an E8, but you could do it. You could set your actual to this month and do your projected to next month, and then you could get a better idea of how to do it. But this is telling you your debt to income ratio, and typically we want to see this below 30%. Ideally, 0% is the best, but you want to have a little bit of credit because then it helps build credit over the long run. Let's say he's doing other things, like he wants to buy a car. So he's 18, get out of boot camp. Who doesn't buy a car right away? So he goes out and he's like, man, E1, I got to get this sweet new, what is it a lot of kids buy, like Mustangs or something, and he spends $15,000 on a used Mustang. Minimum payment, we'll say it's another $250 a month. Actually, that's probably a little low. Being E1, no credit, he's probably paying like close to like $400 a month. Let's be real, right? And I can go back and change living expenses for his insurance, but this is just a hypothetical thing. And a kid who gets his first interest on a car is going to be high, right? Everybody knows that. So auto, we'll just put this in here. We're not going to change the living expense just because I want to show you the full steam, and this is a way to show how to pay off your debt. So right here, okay, he's over his 30% like we want, and then his surplus or deficit per month is he's losing almost $400 a month. Be like, whoa, man, I can't get an auto loan. This is a good way. I can't get an auto loan for $400 a month. This is a really good way to show that, to be able to understand what you could actually pay. You do actions here. This is kind of like, goal setting, which is really good, which we can go over later. Spending habits. So this basically where all your stuff goes. And then we'll skip record and we'll go over to full steam, right? So full steam is a good way to show how to pay off your debts. So right here, obviously you see what we put in debt screen. You got Costco and auto. And you'd be like, okay, so this is your total this is all the money that you owe, right? So what you can do is you can right click in here and you have all these different things. So you can calculate as entered, and you can do greatest savings, so it'll calculate everything for your greatest savings, which is what I would recommend. And then it tells you over here, okay, if you wanted to pay this stuff off as quickly as possible with if you want to pay this off with the greatest savings, this is how you should do it, right? Every month you need to put $250 away towards Costco, $400 away towards auto, and then once the Costco is paid off, boom, put that money right back into the auto loan and pay that sucker down as quickly as possible. So that's pretty cool. Also, what you can do is you can say, hey, if you had surplus in here, like so, we can go back to in debt and say this auto loan's only, let's take these down a little bit just so we have some extra steam in there, and I can show you how to do it. Jeez, E1s really don't make any money, huh? Well, this is super unreasonable, but I just want to show you how the full steam works. So full steam, so you have an extra $108 a month. Let's do greatest savings again. Auto interest is more than the payment. Let's say he gets a really good deal. How's that? Okay, there you go. So you can put in, let's say he did it without the extra steam. Let's see what it looks like. Look at that. This guy's set to be done November of 2029. Long way down the road, huh? So say, he's got an extra 108.67 that he wants to put in. Let's see what that would be. Paid off November 2024. A lot quicker. But it shows you a good way of how to pay pay down your debts and the fastest way that you could, or the greatest savings you could, or smallest balance first. Some people like to do that, and then you can calculate all of them, and it'll tell you which one's the best. Okay. Lastly, for the TSP, before we do TSP, they have the pay scale. So this is 2018 military pay scale. So you can come down here and be like, okay, I'm a W4. They'll tell you what the BAS is for each, for the projected and actual. So if he's an O10 living here, his BH is 2100, which is still not good for this area. And then you have, different pay scales for all these. Super helpful. You don't have to go look them up. It's right here. So we'll go to TSP, and say we're doing the Warren Buffett method, which Warren Buffett recommends 90 in C, 10 in G. So say he's doing that, and the C fund has been the best fund since inception in 1989. So it's pretty safe bet to put it in there over the long term. But he's 18, and he's going to be contributing for another 20 years, right? And then you can go and say, okay, he's contributing X amount. How much money should he have when he retires if he's making, these kind of gains? So this says the TSP balance at age 62.5, which you can withdraw at 59.5 if I'm correct, should be about 3.5 million, which isn't unreasonable. And then here's some numbers over here that'll tell you at what point you should be hitting certain marks, right? So it's pretty helpful. Yeah, super helpful. So that's the budgeting. This one, the projected, looks like a lot because if he's putting that much in every year, he's doing pretty good. Okay. So enough with that budget. It's really good, really helpful, and I would really recommend going over that, at least once a month. Okay, so how can you keep your budget? This is probably the hardest thing to do. Like I said, you can make a budget yourself, and it'll look great on paper. But why doesn't it work? And that's because it comes down to yourself, right? You have to be resilient enough to use that budget. If you can't use that budget, then why would you do it on paper? That's just one of the things that we go over. It's like resiliency, right? So you need to have self-discipline, something that I preach to some of the guys that are below me in my shop. There's always going to be situations that arise that change things, and that's why we have spots in our our living expenses for these, right? So your goal getter fund, or your reserve fund, or your emergency fund, right? So you never know when the motor's going to break down in your car or transmission goes out, and that's why you have those emergency things. And that's something that, you got to be lucky in the first couple of months of your budget that something big doesn't happen, but also you should be planning for those kind of things to happen. Like you should always have, my opinion, I think it's a good number, but you should have about 10,000 in emergency savings. And what? Sorry. The reason you should have that is like I said, the engine goes out in your car, and you're like, dang, I got to get a new engine, or the roof blows off your house, or somebody gets injured and they need money to live on for the next month or two. So those are things that you need those funds for. Also, a lot of what really comes down to, and it's kind of similar to diets, is cheating, right? Like, how easy is it to cheat on your diet? It's like, you're really good for like the first week or two, and you're eating healthy, and you're like, oh man, somebody wants to go out and get a sandwich, or get some ice cream. You're like, oh, I've been so good for 2 weeks, I could just cheat this once, right? So you cheat once, and then Next week comes up and somebody else wants to get ice cream. You're like, man, I've been good for like 3 weeks. I can get ice cream again. I'll be all right. Still losing weight. And then all of a sudden, ice cream becomes every week. All of a sudden, ice cream becomes 2 times a week. And while you're sitting there thinking, yeah, right, that never happens. Dude, it happens all the time. Everybody does that. I do it. I try not to. It's really, really hard. But you have to be stronger, right? You got to be better. And these people that are super rich, they got super far in life. They didn't get there by cheating all the time. You know, Warren Buffett didn't, every time he made a buck, he wasn't out there like, oh man, I'm going to go spend that dollar that I just made. You know, or Elon Musk, same thing. You know, that dude, when he travels, Elon Musk, when he travels, he still sleeps on his friends' couches. He doesn't go blow that money, you know. And it's, if you want to be as successful as they are, you have to mimic at least some of the habits, right? And budgeting's really one of them. And you'd be surprised on how much budgeting like rich people do. And I do a lot of studying of rich people, so I want to be one. And if I want to be one, then who's better to study? You know, the rich people, the ones that have already done it. So we need to maintain that budget. Okay, so something that we looked at over here. You know, he's got surplus as an E8 because he doesn't have any bills or whatever. So it's surplus money. So what should I do with that? And that's where we get to the budgeting, right? Or the funds. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm sure everybody's told them that they need to save money, like I mentioned before. But so why don't most people do it? I can tell you right now, you can go talk to 10 people at your work and be like, hey, how much money do you have in their savings? And if they're completely honest with you, I bet you none of them have more than $5,000 in savings. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 people out there who's got a shop, who's got, you know, a guy who's got like $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 in savings, but he or she is probably an odd one. For the most part, people don't like to keep savings accounts, which is not really a good thing. But, you know, like, people do it. And having a savings account is like paramount towards your financial growth. And I'm not saying you should have like $1 million in savings, but like I said earlier, $10,000 in an emergency fund, perfectly normal. Like, I think that should be what you aim for, just in case you have one of those emergencies and you need that money. Another reason for an emergency, which happens in the military because we don't live at home, like, and it's a shame that it does happen, but you know, what happens when a family member dies and you need to go home? You need to have that emergency money to be able to do that kind of thing. It's happened to me, and I haven't been able to because I didn't have the money to. And I'm trying to help everybody with that kind of thing. And while I wasn't a family member, as a really close friend, I didn't have the money to do it, and I was too ashamed to ask for help. So it's something that you need to really keep in mind for the future. You know, what happens when something like that does happen, even if it's a freak accident. You need to be ready for those kind of things. Sorry. Okay, so the goals and like investing, like savings, these are really fun ones, right? Like I said, goal money. You want to buy something. You want to buy something cool. Like, dude, I've been looking. I see this cool new motorcycle, or I see this cool new car, and I want to buy that car. Like, for me, I got my Z. I got a Datsun Z, and I want to buy that sweet new exhaust system. Or I want to buy a new head for my car. Or to your motorcycle, like, you want to buy a new motorcycle. Or it's like, man, I really want to get that sweet new jacket, new helmet that match for my motorcycle. And I know a lot of you motorcycle guys like to match, right? It's cool. These are things that we need to set money away for. We need to actually research and take our time and buy things once we have the money for it. Don't just go out and buy it on credit. Credit's like the biggest scam, man. Like, credit cards are good if you can pay them down without having to pay interest, which is why the Costco card's good for me, because every time we make a payment on it, we don't get charged any interest on the balance. But say you get a credit card and you're paying 20% a month, which is pretty standard for credit cards, especially when you're younger. Paying 20% a month. If you're making 20% a month in the stock market, you're doing better than Warren Buffett. Just put that in perspective, okay? Like, these credit card companies are crushing it, especially on younger people who buy things on credit. So please, please, if you learn anything, don't take that away from here. Like, stop buying things on credit. I know it's hard because you see something, you're like, man, I gotta have that new jacket that just came out. Man, I know I haven't been saving for it, but dude, it's so sick. Is it really gonna be sick in like a year? Probably not. And in that next year, you would have saved money for that jacket, and you could buy that jacket, right? Instead of paying 20% compounding on top of that. Okay, so another thing, investment accounts, right? So it's super good, especially when you're young, to be putting extra money away on top of your TSP and investment accounts. And that's we'll go over different investments in the future, but knowing how to read like a stock sheet and looking at a stock market. Now, investments aren't just stocks. You can buy hard assets too, like houses or rental properties or storage units or businesses, little gas stations, whatnot. And that's totally doable while you're in the military, by the way. That's something to take into account too. It's like putting that money away so that you can invest it is super good. Now, you don't want to invest small amounts of money in the stock market because you get charged on every transaction for the most part, unless you're doing commission-free ETFs, which is something that we'll get to in the future. But when you do buy stock, you want to buy in large bulk because you get charged less. Same thing, like the goal getter fund could be for a vacation too. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a sweet new motorcycle. It's like dude, I know I do my 3 vacations a year, but I really want to go on a cruise, right? Like, I want me and my buddies, we're all going to go on a cruise. We're going to go down to the Caribbean, or like, say me and my buddies, we're going to go on a road trip, or like me and my wife, we want to go to Disney Worlds or something like that. Put money away in the goal getter fund, and that way, when it's time to go on the trip, you got cash in hand, man. Like, what's better, cash in hand or not cash in hand? It's pretty easy. Okay, I know I've kind of been droning on here, but thanks for sticking this long. I appreciate it. I want to go over like the future episode. So the next episode, it's gonna be something that we talk about in this episode. So I just want to front load everybody so that way they know what's going on next week. I want to go over holiday spending, especially the early part of December, which will be tomorrow, I think. It's super important, right? Like I was kind of discussing earlier about setting budget for Christmas and holidays. It's super, super important. I'm going to go over some of the things that I do to set a good budget, some of the reasons why I've been successful as far as budget setting, and how you can actually maximize like your gifts and whatnot for family members or spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends or friends, if you just want to buy them gifts too. If you're a dude and you're buying gifts for your friends, come on. No, I'm just kidding. I don't buy any for my friends, but if that's what you're into, that's cool. Like, that's totally possible. But we'll go over that next week. I don't want to get too in depth in it now because it's something that we could spend an entire episode on. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in for this long. I know kind of been droning on, but really appreciate you guys stopping in and checking out the video. If you could, subscribe down there and hit that bell icon so you know when I pop up a new video, so you're ready for it. Give me a thumbs up if you would. I would really appreciate it. And thanks everybody so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in my next video.